You spent the past few decades in a training program, but this program wasn't designed to bring you success. It was designed for something entirely else. And right now, this is hurting you more than you've ever realized. You've been taught to be obedient in the training program called school, and the habits that have been drilled into you are the reason that you can't get hired or find success or fulfillment in your career. I'm not talking about your major, your GPA, or any of your extracurriculars. I'm talking about something much deeper, something baked into the way that you think, the way that you carry yourself, and the way that you show up for every conversation or interview without even realizing it. This is something that I call school brain. And if you went through the school system, which you probably did, you almost certainly have it. Here's what's actually happening and why this one invisible habit is doing more damage to your career and life than a bad resume or a bad interview ever could. Think about how school actually works. From the time that you are 5 years old, you're put into a system that operates on one core principle. Someone tells you what to do. You go and do it, and then you're graded simply on how well you followed instructions. You're taught to raise your hand before you speak and wait to be called on. And throughout your entire upbringing in school, you're always just told to color in between the lines. Complete the assignment as it's been described to you. You get punished when you deviate, and you're really told to not be creative. And you're often taught to just stay in your own lane. For years and years, this loop ran on repeat, and it did exactly what it was designed to do. It really just trained you to wait. In school, this looks like waiting for a rubric, waiting for a deadline, or simply waiting for someone to tell you what good looks like before you attempt to do anything. The thing is, though, that this might have worked in school, and you might have done really well. You checked off the boxes, the system rewarded you for following the rules. But from my experience, let me tell you that most people, when they graduate, realize that suddenly there's no rubric, there's no syllabus, and there's no one really handing you a clear set of instructions with a due date. This feeling that you have right now that you're stuck, paralyzed, and doing everything right, but nothing's working, is not failure. It's your school brain crashing into a world that doesn't run on assignments. The real world, unlike school, rewards people who can move without any clear direction. The unfortunate reality is that nobody taught you how to do this because school was never designed to. So what does the opposite of school brain look like? There's a simple way to think about this. I frame it as having an amateur mindset versus a professional mindset. And dividing line between them comes down to one thing. It all comes down to bias to action, which just means, can you start doing things even when you don't have all of the information? Even when there's no clear plan, or even when nobody is asking you to do something. An amateur will wait for clarity before they move, while a professional moves and finds clarity along the way. Let me give you a few more dimensions of this because once you see it clearly, you won't be able to unsee it. An amateur will always react, and a professional will always anticipate. Amateurs will tend to think in days and ask themselves questions like, what's due this week? While a professional will always think in years and ask themselves, where is this going and what am I building towards? Amateurs will ask themselves, what do you need me to do? Versus professionals will tell you, here's what I think we should do, and I've already started doing it this way. This has nothing to do with intelligence, nothing to do with talent. I know people with perfect GPAs who just freeze the moment that there isn't a perfect rubric. And I know people who barely graduated, who walk into rooms and just figure things out. The difference between these people is in the operating system, not the hardware. And your operating system right now is still running on the software that school installed in you. It's outdated and it just doesn't work anymore. So let's make this even more concrete. There's a framework that every hiring manager, whether they use these exact words or not, is evaluating you on. In any team within any company, there are always three types of players: A players, B players, and C players. The difference between these people is not skill or experience. So an A player is someone who, when a manager gives them a project, it'll get done on time. And it's typically better than the manager expected. When they hit a wall or they don't know what to do, they say, I'm stuck on this part. Here's what I've tried. What do you think I should do? They're not ashamed to ask for help because they've already demonstrated that they've tried and put in real effort to begin with. B players, on the other hand, will mostly get projects done, but the manager has to check in multiple times. They might need to clarify the scope, nudge on deadlines. B players aren't necessarily bad. They just wait for more guidance than the situation requires, and they stay operating inside of having school brain. C players, on the other hand, are the people that managers immediately start worrying about when they give them projects. Hiring managers or senior employees will think to themselves oftentimes, will this get done? Will this be right? Should I just do it myself? The C players tend to not ask for help when they're drowning, and they go silent. They even let projects slip entirely sometimes. Even if you've never had a job, these characteristics will show up in your interviews. A players tend to not just answer the questions. They understand really what they're being asked. They come with ideas. They ask deeper questions. They've done their homework, and it really shows. These people aren't trying to impress anybody per se. It's just how they naturally are. Hiring managers, recruiters, senior managers, anybody who has to do with recruiting or hiring or careers will be able to feel this immediately. When you're younger in entry-level roles, especially when everybody has similar resumes and similar GPA and similar credentials, the only thing that separates you is having the A player mindset. With all this said, I'm not telling you to become an A player in every part of your life. I personally am a C player in many areas. Everybody is. The point isn't perfection. The point is just awareness, because you can't fix what you can't see. Let me tell you a story about when all of this clicked for me. I was the one that did everything right. I had the perfect GPA. I had good experience. I was doing the networking. I went down a good path after college, had a solid resume, and a piece of paper and credentials that theoretically should have opened every single door for me. As I was looking for next steps through my early career, I still felt like I was waiting for someone to tell me what to do. I had all the credentials, but I was still running on Schoolbrain. I was still looking for the rubric and still waiting for the next clear set of instructions before I decided to start taking any action. The moment things changed for me wasn't when I got a better job or a better title. It was when I stopped waiting and then when I started asking myself, what would I do right now if nobody was going to tell me what to do? And then I just started doing it. This shift from waiting to moving changed the trajectory of my life more than any line or credential on my resume did. All this to say, this wasn't some massive transformation. It was very small. All it took was starting to operate like the kind of person that I wanted to become. Before I had the proof, the title, the new role, and especially before anybody gave me permission. So I know a lot of this can sound very overwhelming, but here's the part that should genuinely make you optimistic. The bar is pretty much on the floor. I've talked to dozens of employers who hire entry-level talent every year, and they all say some version of the same thing. These candidates have the skills, they have the knowledge, they don't have the right mindset or the right operating system. Most people when they're young, maybe around your age, are passive. This isn't a criticism, this is just what the system produces. Most are reactive and waiting for permission to start their lives, waiting for someone to hand them their rubric to adulthood. So this means the moment that you snap out of Schoolbrain, the moment you walk into a room with initiative instead of just availability, with ideas instead of just rehearsed answers, you immediately put yourself in a different category. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, and you don't have to have the best resume or have the most experience. You just have to be the person that moves and takes action. Because once you start operating this way, something will start to shift. Opportunities won't just find you, they'll start compounding because every person that you impress will tell somebody else. Every manager who sees you operate like a professional will remember you when the next role opens up. And you stop playing the application game entirely, and the system starts to work in your favor. If you've got this far in the video, I want you to participate in this challenge. This isn't some generic, be more proactive advice. I want you to actually think through and do this. Pause this video and ask yourself one question and be really honest. If you were a hiring manager, would you hire 10 more of you? 10 people who show up the way that you show up, prepare the way that you prepare, and operate the way that you operate? Would you want a team full of that person? If the answer is yes, you're ahead of most people. You don't need to watch this video, or you don't need my help. If the answer is no, that's also really good because it's not necessarily a problem, it's just the beginning. Because you can't change what you can't see, and now you finally see it. So your move for this week is to pick one area of your life where you've been running on Schoolbrain. One place where you've been waiting for information, for instructions, for permission, for someone to just tell you what to do. And instead of waiting, just start acting. Send the email, send the project, reach out to the person you've been meaning to reach out to. Do the thing that your Schoolbrain has been telling you to wait on. You don't need to change drastically. You don't need to go through a big transformation. You just need to start carrying yourself like the person that you're trying to become. This mindset shift comes before the title, the salary, and the opportunity, not after. I go deeper on this kind of stuff every week in my newsletter. It's free and the link's in the description. Also, tell me in the comments, where in your life have you been running on Schoolbrain? See you in the next video.